Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown. So of course you've probably heard by now, or maybe even experienced, the absolute mess that was the day one launch of Solar Crown. And whilst things have slightly improved, it wasn't looking good at all, and it really wasn't sending the right message to the player base. So unless you've been living under a rock, you'll know that Test Drive Unlimited's Gold Edition launched yesterday. Now this was the edition that gave you 7 days early access to the game. It was pretty much the Die Hard Edition version, so all of those loyal players that have probably been fans of this series for many years would have really gone ahead and purchased this edition to get their hands on it at least a week early. So you probably guessed it, the launch was absolutely abysmal, and there is a key issue with that. With the game being always online, it must connect to a server to allow players to, well, play it, and that's exactly where it went wrong. The server issues were abundant yesterday. It took me personally 11 hours after the launch to actually get my first taste of the final release of this game. Now the key thing that really worries me about this is the fact that not as many players would have bought the Gold Edition. That is purely really for the die-hard fans. There's going to be a lot more players next week on the 12th of September on the full launch of the game, so is the same issue then going to happen exactly a week later? It really wasn't looking good at all, and like I said, for me personally it was 11 hours until I finally got past this menu screen. Now they did implement some changes. After about an hour of launch, they kind of said, you know, we're going to do some maintenance for 30 minutes, it should let you in, and there was still the problem. Then they started putting in server queues, so this is what you're seeing on screen. And now what was essentially happening, it will count you down from your position to 256 and then let you in the game. And again, it was absolutely dreadful. In fact, you'll see exactly what happens the majority of the time you got put in the queue. It would just then give you the profile login error. So as you can see, you could get right down towards that 256 mark just to be booted out with a profile login error, and then again you have to go ahead and sit in the queue, if it even put you in the queue and didn't give you the login error straight away. Now this was something that happened to me for hours upon hours on end, and it was insanely frustrating. And to be honest, for those that have gone ahead and paid for the game and, you know, paid the £75 or whatever it was to actually get this game on the Gold Edition, it is insanely stupid that this is still a thing in 2024. Again, Test Drive Unlimited has been a pretty major open world racing series for many years. There's a lot of nostalgia there, and you'd honestly think that they will get the servers ready to, I guess, anticipate a lot of players coming at once. This isn't just some, you know, brand new startup open world racer that hasn't really proven itself. This is Test Drive Unlimited. It's a big series, it's a much loved series, there's a lot of nostalgia there, and to see the series end up with this launch in 2024 is absolutely terrible. So eventually I did manage to get into the game, as mentioned, after 11 hours. So how was the servers once I got into the game? And this is the point where you're probably not going to be surprised that yes, the problems continued. Now there was also the save game error, so it would constantly pop up every couple of seconds that the server could have not essentially saved the game. That was something that happened for around about 10 minutes before I think it eventually did it. There is always the other error as well that is quite popular at the minute, which is the race lobby error. So you may go into a race and it might boot you straight back out, you'll have to then enter again. But even worse is when you finish the race, you may have won it or whatever, and then it will give you the race lobby error and kick you out, and then that whole race is entirely wasted and just won't count. It's incredibly frustrating. So as mentioned, my biggest worry is when it comes to next week, and there's going to be a lot more players on this game if they haven't already cancelled their pre-order, let's be honest, after the controversy of day one. Do I think things will improve for the Gold Edition over this next week? Absolutely. But when it comes to the 12th and the full edition launches, and there's a lot more players coming in at once, how are the servers going to handle this? Now this is going to bring me up to a few key issues. When it came to the betas, most of the public betas that weren't private, etc., were linked to pre-orders. So you would have had to have, you know, pre-order those high editions to get the VIP beta access, this, that, and the other. And honestly, I just don't think that's the way to go about it. You're going to get a lot less players stress testing the beta and seeing how the servers run. Now, the original beta that I tested on PC, which was around about, I want to say maybe April, something like that, maybe May time, was actually the same then. The servers weren't great, there was a lot of connection issues, but again, this is something that then seemed to be ironed out a bit more during the more public betas. But again, as soon as the launch comes around, the same kind of thing's happening, to the point where people cannot even play a product that they've actually paid extra for to get it that week early. So I just honestly think that the way about they went about the beta process for this game was just the wrong way to do it. I think that it should have been a pretty much open beta to give everyone a test, see how the servers, you know, kind of stress test, see how it gets on, and that would have honestly, I guess, put more confidence in the developers, and they would have had an idea of just how popular this series is going to be and how much the servers are probably going to take a kick in upon launch. So there's a few things I do want you guys to kind of take away from this video. When it comes to pre-ordering a game in 2024, be very, very aware and prepared that it's probably going to be a massive disappointment, especially if a game's offering early access. More than likely, it's going to be a mess. This just seems to be the standard thing these days. Now, honestly, there's no excuse for it. Honestly, especially if a game says it's always online and you must have an internet connection, then definitely expect the worst. I don't think Always Online has really had a decent launch in many, many moons, or at least the games that I've been playing over the last couple of years or so that have been always online. Now, honestly, in terms of KT Racing and Nacon, this is their first time at the helms of the TDU series, and really, I thought the game would be about 95% finished. It's probably more 90% with the servers. However, it did kind of worry me when I saw the roadmap coming out and there was fixes on that over the next year. I kind of assumed then that the game probably isn't 100% finished, but this is an ability that the developers have these days where they can make even bigger and more significant improvements over time from what they originally envisioned. So I do think they will get it right eventually. I just don't think they were quite ready for the sheer amount of players that were going to jump on these servers, considering how big the TDU franchise really is and how much nostalgia there is for players there. The next thing, honestly, when it comes to this always online stuff for games, you must put in an offline mode as well, where you can carry your progress between being connected to the servers and playing it offline. Honestly, look at The Crew, for example, when that went offline and the controversy there, that game's now completely gone from existence. It's ridiculous. It never seems to work. Always Online needs to end sooner rather than later. It hasn't worked for a lot of games over many numbers of years, so just put an offline portion into the game with your progress carrying on when you jump onto the servers itself as well. So if you can take anything away from Solar Crown currently, is that don't pre-order games in 2024. That's the only way you're going to get the change you need, and Always Online is terrible. Anyway, that's it from me today. Take care, guys. Peace.